So, picture this, a city right in the middle of one of the most famous deserts in the world. Now imagine we're going to build a 100-kilometer-long living shield all the way around it just to fight back against the heat and the sand. I know it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but believe it or not, this is a very real plan for Las Vegas. And that really is the big question we're digging into here. I mean, is it even possible? Can we actually build a massive green barrier that doesn't just, survive out there, but actually thrives in one of the toughest environments on the planet? Well, let's break down how this crazy idea might just work. All right, so let's start with the vision. And honestly, it doesn't get much bolder than this. We're talking about a massive green ring, a defensive belt wrapped around the entire sprawling city of Las Vegas. So what's the mission here? Well, it's pretty straightforward, and it's got two main jobs. Job number one, physically block those relentless sandstorms that just blast in from the Mojave Desert. And job number two, create a cooling effect to fight back against that intense urban heat that just bakes the city. It's really a defense on two fronts. Okay, but here's the massive problem, the harsh reality of it all. The Mojave Desert is, well, it's actively hostile to most plants. I mean, just think about these numbers for a second. You get less than 120 millimeters of rain a year, summer temps soar past 45 degrees Celsius, and the soil, it's basically just alkaline dust. So if you tried to plant a normal, everyday park out here, it wouldn't just be hard, it would be an absolute guaranteed failure. And this is where things get really, really clever. The people behind this plan knew they had to completely rethink what a green space even means. They had to toss out the old rulebook, because to survive in the Mojave, you don't build a park, you build a fortress. Yeah, and this really gets to the heart of the whole idea. On one side, you've got what we could call the forest myth. You know the one. This idea that we can just plant a bunch of beautiful, thirsty trees that need tons and tons of water. In a place like this, it's a fantasy. But on the other side, you have the fortress reality. And that's all about using tough, native desert plants, super smart water recycling, and building a strategic defense that can actually take care of itself. So it's really important to get this in our heads. We are not talking about a park here. The proper term is a green buffer belt. And the absolute key, the single most important part of this whole thing, is that it's designed to be self-sustaining. The goal, after the first few years of getting it started, is for it to survive pretty much on its own, with almost zero artificial watering. That's the game changer. Okay, so how in the world do you actually build a desert fortress like this? Well, let's dive into the blueprint. It really boils down to three key things: a brilliant water strategy, picking the perfect plants, and a whole lot of patience. All right, first up, water. And honestly, the strategy here is just genius. Step one, forget using drinking water. That's a non-starter. Instead, they tap into Las Vegas's recycled wastewater. Step two, the ground itself is engineered with these things called swales. They're basically just shallow ditches designed to catch every single drop of rain that falls. Step three, they use this super efficient irrigation system that's under the ground, so water goes straight to the roots and nothing evaporates. And now for the incredible final step. They plan to gradually turn it all off, aiming to stop all watering completely after about 5 years. Okay, next up, the plants. And you can't just throw any old tree out there. The plan uses this really smart two-wave approach. First, you plant what are called pioneer species, like mesquite. Their job is to go in and actually improve the soil, kind of like the advanced team. Then, once the ground is ready, you bring in the structural species, like the Palo Verde tree, to provide shade and block the wind. And here's the golden rule. Over 70% of the plants have to be native to the desert. And I cannot stress this enough. Absolutely, positively, no grass. And that brings us to the timeline, which really shows you this is not a quick fix. We're talking about a long-term generational project. So by year 5, those pioneer plants are set and they start cutting back on the water. By year 15, the bigger structural plants are doing their thing and the irrigation is down by half. And the ultimate goal? By year 30, the water is turned off completely. The system is now a fully self-sustaining ecosystem, doing its job all on its own. So there you have it, that's the blueprint. But here's the thing, it isn't an all-or-nothing deal. The plan actually presents 3 totally different paths forward for Vegas, each one with a different scale, and you guessed it, a very different price tag. Let's look at the options on the table. First, you've got Scenario A. This is the pilot program, kind of like dipping a toe in the water. It's a 20-kilometer section just to prove it works, costing about $250 million. Then, way on the other end, you have Scenario C, the mega project, the moonshot. This thing would be a global landmark, but we're talking a price tag of around $6 billion. But right in the middle, you have what the experts call the sweet spot, Scenario B. This is the full 100-kilometer belt built for maximum impact on the city's climate, coming in at about $2 billion. And yeah, looking at the costs side by side like this really puts it all into perspective. You can see that first bar, Scenario A, the pilot project, then that big but kind of logical jump up to Scenario B, the recommended plan, and then, wow, that massive leap it takes to get to Scenario C. It's a whole different ballgame. So the expert recommendation is crystal clear. They say, look, while all three are possible, Scenario B, that full 100-kilometer belt, is really the only one that's going to be truly effective. It's the only option big enough to actually achieve those core goals, cooling the city and stopping the sand. All right, so let's zoom out for a second. Why should any of us, especially if we don't live in Las Vegas, care about this project? What's the big takeaway here? Because this really is about something much bigger than just one city. Well, if they go with the recommended plan, the benefits are huge, and they go way beyond just blocking some sand. We're talking about a potential drop in the city's average temperature by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but for a city like Vegas, that is a massive, massive deal. Plus, you're maximizing water recycling and creating this incredible asset that costs very little to maintain in the long run. And maybe most importantly, it becomes this powerful global symbol of how we can adapt to a changing climate. And I think this one quote from the analysis just perfectly sums up the whole point. This is not landscaping, it is urban survival infrastructure. I mean, just let that sink in. This isn't about planting some nice trees to make things look pretty. This is a fundamental shift in how we think about cities. It's about building what's necessary for a city to literally survive in a more extreme world. And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. Las Vegas is on the front lines of this fight, for sure. But it's not going to be the last city to face these kinds of challenges. So as our world keeps getting hotter and drier, you have to wonder, will every city eventually need a shield of its own?